Chapter 25:51. Qingmu looked at him and smiled gently. Guze, find someone else to like. I can't even save myself, not to mention you. His eyes were burning, and he was still unwilling to let her go. Qingmu, let's try, shall we? Qingmu still smiled slightly. Guze, I can only say I'm sorry. He looked at her, and finally, his face was ashen. After a long time, his body slowly straightened, and he kept looking at her. Qingmu said in a low voice, Guze, let me out of the car. Zhao Yin is waiting for me. His body paused, and he asked her in a very soft voice, will you choose Zhao Yin? Qingmu just shook her head gently. She didn't explain, and he probably already knew the reason. Actually, Qingmu was a very proud girl. He didn't want to force her, and he was impulsive today. He watched her step back bit by bit and sat upright in the dark. About 5 minutes later, he said in a low voice, you can get out of the car. When Qingmu got out of the car, her legs were weak. She had only taken 2 steps when Guze got out of the car and called out to her. He was holding her handbag in his hand, and he slowly walked toward her. Qingmu silently took it and smiled slightly. Thank you. He looked at her, put his hands in his pockets, and resisted the urge to hug her. He said lightly, go in quickly. It's a little cold outside. Qingmu grunted in acknowledgement. However, the man who said it was cold outside took a step forward and grabbed her little hand. Qingmu turned her head, and there was a little surprise on her face. Guze's voice was very soft. I kissed you forcefully, and you still want to say thank you to me? Qingmu shook her head. It's nothing. Guze immediately understood. Because she didn't care about him, she felt that it was nothing to kiss him. Besides, she was single now, and kissing a man wouldn't have any burden. Moreover, he had given her the illusion that he was Zhou Chongwang. That was why she thanked him. Guze lowered his eyes and smiled bitterly. Understand. He stood where he was and watched her walk into the restaurant. He smoked a few cigarettes on the spot before getting into the car. He was still lighting his cigarette as he calmly looked ahead. He sat there for a long time, thinking about what he had said to her tonight, thinking about that kiss. His slender fingers gently caressed his thin lips, which were still warm and had the taste of Qingmu. He remembered that when he kissed her, he felt a faint sense of happiness. It was because of Qingmu's beauty. This was the first time he wanted to have a girl so much. In the past, because she was Zhou Chongwang's wife, he had always suppressed it. Now, he could finally tell her that he liked her, and he had liked her for many years. Even if she wasn't willing, even if she didn't accept it, he could still like her. It was his business that he liked her, but it was her business whether she accepted him or not. If every love came so easily, it wouldn't be so precious. Guze had been sitting in the car the whole time, smoking quietly. It was only when there was a small pile of cigarette butts on the ground beside the car window that Qingmu came out of the restaurant. Of course, Zhao Yin was beside her. When she came out, she was stunned when she saw Guze's car. Zhao Yin, who was beside her, also recognized Guze's car. They were familiar with each other, and naturally, he wouldn't pretend that he hadn't seen it. His heart was like a mirror, but he couldn't say it out loud. He said to Qingmu in a low voice, wait for me. With that said, he took off his coat and draped it over Qingmu's shoulders. Chapter 25:52. Although the Qin family and the Zhao family weren't related by blood, they were somewhat close because of Schwerer and Muyun. He walked to Guze's car window in his turtleneck. Guze glanced at him and silently handed him a cigarette. Zhao Yin smiled. Zhou Chongwang has already broken his body. Do you want to do the same? Guze didn't say anything. He lit the cigarette and looked in Qingmu's direction. Her car is at the cafe. Do you want to send her back? Zhao Yin smiled and didn't deny it. Guze's gaze became unfathomable. He looked at Zhao Yin and said softly, you don't seem to be going the same way. Zhao Yin smiled. Guze, you don't seem to be going the same way. Guze glanced at him. Then be careful on the road. With that said, he started the car and drove away slowly. Zhao Yin looked at the back of the car and turned back to look at Qingmu. Qingmu's gaze also fell on the back of Guze's car. He couldn't help but smile. Actually, Guze is not bad. Qingmu smiled. You're not really trying to persuade him, are you? I want to persuade him to death. Zhao Yan opened the door of his white Ferrari and sat in. He turned to look at her. My thoughts are the same as Guzé's. You know that. Qin Mu looked a little indifferent. She ignored him and just looked out at the night sky. Zhao Yan's heart was soft. Of course, he knew why Qin Mu came to the restaurant. She was just reminiscing. She was searching for her past without realizing it. It was just that no one had the heart to expose her, because as long as she was happy, it was fine. Zhao Yan and Guzé were two people. He clearly knew that Guzé had a higher chance of winning. In Qin Mu's heart, he was a very good friend, but Guzé was different. Guzé had the aura of Zhou Chengwang. At least, it was the aura of the time when he was particularly intimate with Qin Mu. But Qin Mu didn't realize it yet. He had seen it from upstairs. He had seen Guzé kiss her, and she did not reject him. At that time, Zhao Yan knew that he had no chance. It was either Zhou Chengwang or Guzé. Zhao Yan had nothing to do with it. At this time, facing her silence, he could only smile bitterly. He knew that he had rushed back from afar for her divorce because he was delusional. However, he would rather be delusional and stay with her through this difficult period of time. There's a kind of liking called asking for nothing in return. The corners of Zhao Yan's mouth rose slightly. Qin Mu looked at him sideways. What are you smiling at? I'm smiling. I'm actually a good person. When he stopped the car, he pinched her face. Qin Mu was used to fooling around with him, so she didn't feel anything. But Zhao Yan's eyes became a little deeper because he saw her slightly swollen red lips. He was thinking how much strength Guzé had exerted. How long had Guzé been hungry to be unable to control himself? However, he could only think about it. If he said it out loud, it would embarrass Qin Mu. Zhao Yan smiled and let her go. He walked her all the way home and watched her go upstairs. That night, Guzé was not the only one smoking in the car. The white Ferrari was parked outside Qin Mu's building, and it stayed there until midnight. In the dead of night, in the office on the top floor of Glory, Zhou Chengwang sat quietly behind the desk. The light in the office was very bright, but it made his face look even paler. Chapter 25:53. There was a thick stack of photos in Zhou Chengwang's hand. He looked at them quietly, one after another, as if he was torturing himself. Each of them was a close-up shot, and they were high definition. He could clearly see that his muumuu was pressed against the seat by Guzé, and they were kissing. Their kisses were particularly lingering. Their lips were pressed against each other, and even the kiss of their tongues could be seen clearly. Her cheeks were slightly sunken, which showed how hard they were kissing. The entanglement of their bodies had broken through all boundaries. He could even see clearly that Qin Mu was being held in Guzé's palm, and he was playing with her wantonly. It was not an ordinary kiss. It was a kiss with a pair of jade eyes. As long as they were willing, they could have sex at any time in the car. But in the end, he knew that Qin Mu had gone to see Zhao. Zhou Chengwang leaned against the back of the chair, closed his eyes slightly, and covered them with the back of his hand. He lay quietly, but the shocking scene of Qin Mu being trapped under Guzé's body kept appearing in his mind. Every contact and every detailed expression had become a nightmare for Zhou Chengwang. He knew that he shouldn't monitor her. He just wanted to know if she was doing well, but he didn't expect that Guzé would appear by her side so soon. Guzé kissed her, but she didn't push him away or refuse him. Would she be with Guzé? Zhou Chengwang found that he couldn't think about such a question at all. Every time he thought about it, he would go crazy. He sat quietly in the office, not wanting to do anything, not thinking about anything. He just sat quietly, thinking about his muumuu. This was a quiet place, a place where he could think about her quietly. He remembered that Qin Mu once came over. He had to work, and he sat here with her in his arms. At first, she was obedient, but later, she became naughty. He still carried her into the lounge. She complained that he had slept in someone else's bed and refused to come over. In the end, he had no choice but to stop working and take her to the nearest hotel to get a room. That day, he pressed her down in the bathroom 3 times in high spirits, and he didn't even change his position. That day, he tormented her until she was extremely obedient and he could do whatever he wanted. After she said a lot of shameless things, he finally let her go. That was the craziest time. But now, she was in someone else's arms. She was also being kissed like that. Would she also sleep with Gu Zhe in the future? Zhou Chengwang put down his palm. He lay there quietly, looking at the dark night outside. She laughed softly, but didn't make a sound. She just looked at him in silence. In his eyes, there was no sound. He just sat there from day to night, from night to day. The next morning, Zhao Zi pushed open the office door and saw Zhou Chengwang sitting there. He walked in slowly, put his hands on both sides of the desk, and stared at Zhou Chengwang. Last night, Gumei almost blew up my phone. Did you turn off your phone? Zhou Chengwang looked at Zhao Zi and didn't say anything. Zhao Zi's eyes flickered, and he saw the photos scattered on the desk. He reached out to pick them up and looked at them one by one. Then he cursed in a low voice. Gu Zhe is really fast at closing his eyes. He looked at Zhou Chengwang. These photos are... I asked someone to take them. Zhou Chengwang chuckled. Isn't it very perverted? Zhao Zi looked a little serious. Chengwang, if you can't let it go, you will only harm Qin Mu. Chapter 25:54. Zhou Chengwang's gaze deepened. He looked down and burned the photos bit by bit. In the light of the fire, he said softly, I won't disturb her. You're already disturbing her by doing this. How long do you think you can do this? Won't she find out? Zhao Zi's voice was tense. Chengwang, she won't be able to walk out if she finds out. I'll be very careful. Zhou Chengwang said stubbornly. Zhao Zi was speechless for a moment. He suddenly sighed. Actually, Chengwang wasn't in a good state. He and Gu may have been together for a month, but he rarely went back. Even when he did, he only went to see the child. Zhao Zi lowered his voice. Chengwang, I know you don't like Gumei, but whether it's for the child or for Qin Mu's peace, you should at least go back and take a look. Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything, but Zhao Zi knew that he had listened to him. He didn't say anything else. Looking at the photos, he felt a little bitter. He had liked Qin Mu before, or rather, he still liked her. However, Chengwang had divorced her. Zhao Zi wouldn't touch Qin Mu no matter how muddle-headed he was. That wouldn't be brotherly. He watched as Zhou Chengwang got up slowly and looked at him in surprise. Chengwang? Zhou Chengwang took his coat and smiled bitterly at him. Didn't you say that I should go back and take a look? Zhao Zi was a little stunned as he watched him walk out of the office. Zhou Chengwang sat in the car and closed his eyes. However, the moment he closed his eyes, he saw the image of Qin Mu and Gu Zhe kissing. His heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. A moment later, he started the car and drove to the apartment where Gu Mei and the child lived. Half an hour later, the car stopped in front of a building. Zhou Chengwang got out of the car and closed the door. When the elevator reached the 20th floor, it stopped with a ding. He stepped out of the elevator and opened the apartment door. In the morning light, Gu Mei was standing on the balcony with the child in her arms. She coaxed, Daddy will be back soon. Baby, be good. Her face was pressed against the child's little face, and the expression on her face was very happy. At that moment, Zhou Chengwang was jealous of Gu Mei. How could she still be happy? When everyone else was unhappy, she was actually so calm. He gently closed the door and walked towards her. His appearance made Gu Mei blink, as though she was surprised by his appearance. Then, she called his name softly, Chengwang. Zhou Chengwang grunted and took the child from her arms. After treatment and nutrition, the child had already grown fat. Zhou Chengwang kissed his little face and asked in a hoarse voice, Where's the confinement nanny? Oh, she said she would come later today. Gu Mei stood beside him and looked at her son with him. Chengwang, we haven't named the child yet. Why don't you name one so that it'll be easier to register? Zhou Chengwang looked at her and said slowly, Let's call him Zhou Shunu. Gu Mei was stunned, and there was a touch of moisture in her eyes. How could she not know the meaning of Shui Mu? Wasn't it the word Mu? However, she pretended not to know and forced a smile. There's a group called Shui Mu Nianhua. It was quite popular in the past. Chengwang, you must have named the child because of this. Zhou Chengwang just looked at the child and didn't say anything. Gu Mei continued. After he went solo, he became quite popular. Chapter 25:55. Zhou Chengwang finally looked at her. Let's call him Zhou Shuimu. I like Shuimu Nianhua. After saying that, he handed the child to Gu Mei and walked towards the guest room. I'm going to take a shower. Gume stood where she was with the child in her arms. There were tears in her eyes. She knew that Zhou Chengwang was still thinking about Qin Mu, so he rarely came back and rarely talked to her when he came back. Gume looked down at her son and gently coaxed him to sleep. She put him in his little bed and walked towards the guest room where Zhou Chengwang lived. He had been here 3 or 4 times in total. He stayed in the guest room every time. She didn't think much about it because she was in confinement, but now she felt that she could. She pushed the door open. The guest room was filled with a strong smell of smoke. Zhou Chengwang was standing by the window smoking. There were several cigarette butts in the ashtray beside him. He was only wearing a bathrobe. She could easily see that he had lost a lot of weight when she looked at him from behind. Gume frowned slightly. She walked behind him and took away the cigarette in his hand. It's not good for your health to smoke so early in the morning. Zhou Chengwang looked at her. After a long time, he said in a hoarse voice, I'm going to sleep. Gume looked at him for a long time and said softly, Chengwang, I went to the hospital for a postpartum checkup yesterday. He didn't say anything. Gume continued, I've been pregnant for 42 days. Everything is normal. I can have sex. After saying that, she looked up at him with a touch of expectation in her eyes. She said it directly. Zhou Chengwang gently pushed her away. I'm a little tired. After saying that, he walked to the bed, lifted the quilt, and lay down, ignoring her. Gume bit her lips, walked over, and knelt behind him. She bent down and hugged him from behind. She kissed the back of his neck. Her voice was a little hot. Chengwang, do you not want to touch me? Zhou Chengwang had been lying down and didn't move, but her actions were getting more and more excessive. After a long time, he said, I'm tired. Gume's hand moved down gently. Then she put her hand on his face and whispered, You're lying. He clearly had a reaction. Zhou Chengwang let her be. He closed his eyes slightly. Gume, is there any point in revealing something that you already know? Gume was stunned. As if a bucket of cold water had been poured over her, she looked at the man in front of her, at her husband. He really did not want to touch her, even if he reacted. The muscles on Gume's face twitched unnaturally. Her hand that was holding his hand also trembled. She looked at his back and asked softly, Are you going to look for a woman outside? He didn't move and said softly, If you force me, I don't mind finding a woman. Gume almost went crazy. Her lips trembled. Why don't you want me? Just because you still miss her? Zhou Chengwang's face was a bit ashen. He slowly turned his head and looked at his wife in name, saying word by word, Don't mention her in front of me. You are not worthy. Gume, maybe I owed you before, but Qimu never owed you anything. You owe her. Gume knelt down, tears streaming down her face. Zhou Chengwang, why did you marry me if you didn't touch me? Chapter 2556. Gume was about to break down. She cried and said, Zhou Chengwang, do you hate me that much? Do you hate me so much that you don't even want to touch me? How much did a man care about his wife to be willing to let her find another man? Such a marriage was too ironic. How could Gume be willing? She didn't want this. She wanted him to be wholeheartedly devoted to her and their son. But imagination was beautiful, and reality was cruel. Zhou Chengwang's gaze was indifferent. I thought you would have known a long time ago. He looked around and said, I don't want to quarrel with you. I think it's our wish to give the child a quiet space to grow up. So, Gume, stop your tricks. He gently pinched her chin with his fingers and said, It's too low to play the same trick twice. I don't mind letting you know my choice. Gume's eyes were red as she murmured, Chengwang, you weren't like this before. You used to be very good to me. As long as I wanted you, you would be willing. That was in the past. He pursed his thin lips. At that time, he hadn't fallen in love with Mumu, but it was different now. Even though Qin Mu had left, he had no interest in women. Gume's lips trembled. Is it because of that bitch Qin Mu? As soon as she finished speaking, Zhou Chengwang slapped her face. Immediately, 5 fingerprints appeared on Gume's face, which were clear and terrifying. I told you not to mention her. You don't deserve it. Zhou Chengwang narrowed his eyes. Gume covered her face and looked at him in disbelief. You hit me? I didn't say that I don't hit women. Zhou Chengwang said coldly and got out of bed. He couldn't sleep well here, so he decided to go back to the villa to sleep. He got up and changed his clothes. He didn't avoid Gumei and just changed his clothes. Just as he was about to leave, Gumei knelt by the bed and asked softly, "Have you hit her?" Zhou Chengwang paused and unexpectedly answered, "No," because Moo was so good. How could he bear to let him go? She had always been the one to slap him. Who knew how many times she had slapped him, but he had never been angry at her. This was probably the difference between love and not love. Gumei kept kneeling, tears streaming down her face. Her expectations for him were cut into pieces at this moment. When the confinement nanny came over, Gumei was still kneeling there. The confinement nanny was a little uneasy. She stood at the door and softly called out, "Mrs. Zhou." Gumei raised her eyes, looking a little absent-minded. "What did you call me?" "Mrs. Zhou." The confinement nanny saw the strange expression on her face and was a little worried. Gumei smiled and muttered to herself, "Mrs. Zhou. Yes, I am Mrs. Zhou." She raised her head slightly. "Annie Zhang, please take a look at Shui Mu. It's my son's name. My husband gave it to me. I'm going out for a bit." Aunt Zhang nodded. "Don't worry, madam." She had worked here for a long time and found out that the couple did not get along well. Mr. Zhou rarely came home, and even when he did not talk much with Mrs. Zhou. Everyone in B City knew how this marriage came about. Mr. Zhou probably liked his ex-wife more. But if he liked his wife, how could he let a mistress get pregnant? She really didn't understand the world of the rich. Chapter 25:57. Gumei's car stopped at the entrance of the villa. The guard stopped her from entering and the door didn't open. "I'm looking for Zhou Chengwang." Gumei gritted her teeth. The guard looked apologetic. "Zhou Zong isn't here." But how could Gumei believe him? When she saw that Zhou Chengwang's car wasn't there, she started to believe him again. She hesitated for a moment, but still drove away. On the second floor of the villa, Zhou Chengwang stood by the window of the study room and watched Gumei leave. He held a cigarette between his fingers and smoked it calmly. After Gumei left, he slowly walked back to the master bedroom. It was the same as before. There was a wedding photo of him and Qin Mu hanging on the bedside table. In the photo, she was smiling happily. Qin Mu loved him the most at that time. She was only 18 years old and had just come of age. She was so pure and beautiful. She gave everything she had to him. Zhou Chengwang lay on the bed, but he didn't fall asleep immediately. He thought of what Zhao Zi said. Zhao Zi said, "Chengwang, you will hurt Qin Mu if you get close to her, because she has gone crazy." Zhou Chengwang suddenly opened his eyes and looked at everything around him. This was his peaceful place, but he couldn't come here often. Zhou Chengwang suddenly laughed bitterly. He raised his hand to cover his eyes and called out Qin Mu's name. However, his heart and surroundings were empty. They were no longer there. He lay there for about 2 hours before he fell asleep. He received a call from the confinement nanny. She said that Madam was locked in the room and wouldn't come out. The baby was also locked in the room, and she was a little worried. Zhou Chengwang knew that she was worried because she had seen the news about Gu mate jumping off a building. It was such a mother that even the confinement nanny was worried about. When Zhou Chengwang put on his shoes, he made up his mind. When he returned to the apartment, he was exhausted, but he still knocked on the door patiently. Gumei opened the door. There was no sound from inside for a long time. Zhou Chengwang knocked on the door again. "Gumei." Gumei only came out after 5 minutes. Her hair was a little messy and her eyes were swollen. The moment she came out, she pounced over and hugged Zhou Chengwang. "Chengwang, I was so scared. I was scared that you wouldn't come back and don't want me anymore." She was in a trance. Zhou Chengwang didn't push her away. Instead, he gave Aunt Zhang a look. Aunt Zhang immediately rushed in and picked up the child. The child slept soundly and did not wake up. However, Annie Zhang was used to taking care of children. She always felt that the baby was a little strange. After he was carried out, he said softly, "Mr. Zhou, the baby should go to the hospital for a checkup." Zhou Chengwang nodded. Gumei immediately pushed Zhou Chengwang away, wanting to snatch the child away. "Don't touch my child." Zhou Chengwang pulled Gumei over and trapped her in his arms. He said to Aunt Zhang, "Wait for me in the car downstairs." As he said that, He threw the car keys to Aunt Zhang and dragged Gu Mei to the master bedroom. Aunt Zhang saw the scene and knew that it wasn't a good time to watch, so she immediately went downstairs. Zhou Chengwang dragged Gu Mei and pressed her against the headboard. He reached for the bedside cabinet and took out 2 ties. Gu Mei was going crazy. Zhou Chengwang, you're crazy. What are you doing? He swiftly tied her hands and feet, especially her hands behind her back, and threw her there. He straightened his body and said coldly, Gu Mei, don't disappoint me again. That's your son. Chapter 2558. Gu Mei shook her head gently. He's my son. If you snatch him away, does it mean that you don't want me anymore? Do you want to leave me here alone and let me starve to death so that you can be with Qinmu again? Is that right? Zhou Chengwang's body slowly moved away from the bed. He stood there and looked down at her with a pained gaze. Gu Mei, how did you become like this? Gu Mei gritted her teeth. I know what you're thinking. Zhou Chengwang, you're not human. You used me. Everything is your own choice. I married you, but you asked for too much. Also, you tried so hard to get this child. He's your own flesh and blood. Shouldn't he be more important than a man who doesn't love you? How could she bear to hurt such a young child? Gu Mei bit her lip and glared at him. Zhou Chengwang left without looking back. He locked her in the room so that she wouldn't have a chance to court death. When he went downstairs, Annie Zhang was already in the car with the child. He quickly got in and started the car. How's the child? Annie Zhang wanted to say something, but hesitated. Zhou Chengwang drove the car out with a stern face. Just say it. Annie Zhang's voice was a little soft. We're in this line of work. We know that some Annies feed their children a small amount of sleeping pills so that they don't disturb themselves. But I think I might have seen wrongly. The child is Madam's biological child. It's unlikely that Madam would do that. Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything. He drove to the nearest Shenyuan hospital and called for the emergency department. Coincidentally, he bumped into Lan Yu. Lan Yu was here for a follow-up. More than half a year had passed, and Lan Yu's legs were almost able to walk normally. The flesh had also grown back, and he looked pretty good. There wasn't much difference from before. Lan Yu looked at Zhou Chengwang and then at the child in his arms. Your child? Zhou Chengwang nodded his head slightly and didn't say anything. The matter between him and Gu Mei had spread like wildfire. Everyone who had ears and was not blind knew about it. Lan Yu's heart was still quite complicated. After looking for a long time, he said softly, What's wrong with the child? Zhou Chengwang naturally didn't want to talk about this kind of family scandal. He only said lightly, I have a slight fever. After that, he hurriedly walked into the consulting room. Lan Yu stood there and did not leave immediately. The doctor took a look at the baby and confirmed that he had taken sleeping pills. Luckily, Gu Mei's dosage wasn't heavy, so it wasn't to the extent of washing his intestines. But Mr. Zhou, Mrs. Zhou's behavior is not the behavior of a normal person. She may have a mental illness. Why don't we take her for a checkup another day? The doctor said straightforwardly. What kind of mother would jump off a building with her child? What kind of mother would give her child sleeping pills? Zhou Chengwang nodded. I will. Let the child see it first. The doctor thought for a moment. Stay in the hospital for a day. Get some drips and observe. Zhou Chengwang nodded. He asked Aunt Zhang to hold the child and went to apply for hospitalization. When he walked out, he saw that Lan Yu was still there. He said lightly, The child is fine. Lan Yu patted him on the shoulder. Don't think too much. I survived it. Zhou Chengwang looked at him meaningfully. Lan Yu survived it. He had a crush on his ex-sister-in-law. Out of some special mentality, Zhou Chengwang didn't intend to tell Lan Yu Qin Shen's gender. Chapter 2559. Zhou Chengwang was about to leave when he saw Qin Shen and the director walking side by side. He then looked at Lan Yu and finally knew why this guy was in the hospital. However, at this time, Zhou Chengwang was in a mess and naturally did not have the mood to care about other people's business, so he quickly left. Qin Shen had returned to China for an academic exchange these few days. On the one hand, he was worried about Qinmu, so he had to come back and live with her for a few days every month. From afar, he saw Lan Yu. Lan Yu had mostly recovered and was very different from the person in a vegetative state. Qin Shen put his hand in his pocket, and his gaze was a little deep. He had to admit that Lan Yu still looked good. In the past, he had the temperament of a painter. Now that he had taken over his family's hotel business, he had more of an elite aura. Perhaps this was Lan Yu's original appearance. Dr. Qin Shun was wearing a white doctor's robe. He only needed to stand there, and he could see the scenery. Countless young nurses stood there, holding their small faces. Their faces were red, and they kept throwing admiring gazes at him. Lan Yu was a little jealous. He looked at Qin Shun and slowly walked over. There was still a little problem with his leg, and his walking was a little stiffer than a normal person's. It would probably take a year and a half of fine adjustment to recover. He walked up to Qin Shun and deliberately said in a very light voice, "You're back." What a coincidence. Qin Shun's gaze fell on his face, and he smiled very lightly. "You're here for a follow-up?" Lan Yu coughed lightly. "Yes, but unfortunately, the doctor who helped me with the follow-up happened to be on vacation." There was a faint smile in Qin Shun's eyes. "If Mr. Lan doesn't mind, let me help you with the follow-up." Lan Yu could not have asked for more. At the side, the dean looked at this and that, silently thinking of the previous rumor of a man and a man. However, how could he dare to care about Qin Shun's scandal? He said uncomfortably, "Then, little Qin, I'll go back to my office first. After you're done, we'll have an academic exchange about the problem just now." Qin Shun smiled and sent the dean off. After a while, he retracted his gaze and looked at Lan Yu. Let's go to your office," Lan Yu requested. Qin Shun did not comment and took the lead to walk in front. There were only the two of them in the elevator. Qin Shun was very calm, while Lan Yu was absent-minded because he had ulterior motives. Suddenly, Qin Shun asked, "Was that Zhou Chongwang just now?" Lan Yu was stunned for a moment before coming back to his senses. "It seems that the child isn't feeling well, so I came to take a look." Qin Shun's eyes were cold as he turned his face to the side and said softly, "Gume will kill him sooner or later." Lan Yu was also silent. After a long time, he said, "Actually, it's quite a pity for him and Qin Mu." Qin Shun turned his head and looked at him. Qin Mu is doing quite well now. Lan Yu's heart went numb when he was looked at like this. It was an indescribable feeling. He was teased by the man again, and his Adam's apple unconsciously moved. Qin Shun did not say anything else. Just then, they arrived at his office, and the elevator opened with a ding. He said calmly, "We're here." As he spoke, he swiped the card and opened the door. It was the first time that Lan Yu had entered Qin Shun's office. Everything was decorated like Qin Shun's. It was very elegant, and there was a sense of coldness and nobility. Really, it did not look like a doctor's office at all, because it was too luxurious. It was not the kind of luxury that could be found everywhere, but it was exquisite. A paperweight that could be picked up casually could be worth hundreds of thousands. And the sofa that Lan Yu sat on was imported from Germany, and it was about 1 million yuan. Chapter 2560. Lan Yu sat down and stretched out his legs. Qin Shun did not immediately examine him. Instead, he took off his white robe and revealed a light gray shirt and a pair of dark brown trousers. They looked very exquisite. He first brewed a cup of coffee. Lan Yu recognized that the coffee tableware was also a famous product. It cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. When it came to money, Lan Yu had seen it before. He was rich, and so were the Qin family and the Tang family. However, there were not many people who could live a life as exquisite as Qin Shun. When the aroma of coffee wafted out, Qin Shun turned his head and looked at Lan Yu. "Do you want a cup?" In fact, it was better for Lan Yu to drink less coffee and alcohol during his recovery period. However, Qin Shun was a capricious doctor, and he also encountered capricious patients. Lan Yu said without thinking, "I'll have a cup." Qin Shun's gaze was a little profound. "Are you sure?" Lan Yu smiled slightly, and his heart was full of lust. Qin Shun smiled and did not say anything else. He elegantly poured a cup for himself and Lan Yu. He added cream and sugar cubes for himself. As for Lan Yu, he only added a little cream. After doing this, he slowly walked over and placed the cup in front of Lan Yu. He then sat on the sofa opposite him. Lan Yu looked at Qin Shun's refined look and felt that his life was very rough. He was born to a good family, and he could obviously afford this with his talent. However, in front of Qin Shun, there was only one word for him: rough. He picked up the expensive handmade antique porcelain cup and took a sip. The coffee was fragrant, smooth, and greasy. Even the staff in a famous coffee shop might not be able to make such a good coffee. Qin Shun also took a small sip, looked at Lan Yu, and said softly, "The coffee beans I chose cost $100,000 per kilogram, so this cup is very expensive." However, what Lan Yu thought was expensive was not the coffee utensils or the price of the coffee beans, but the fact that a person like Qin Shun could brew a cup for him was already priceless. Lan Yu smiled and continued to taste his coffee, cherishing every sip. Qin Shun took a few sips and looked at Lan Yu quietly. Lan Yu only discovered his abnormality a few minutes later. At this time, his forehead was covered in fine sweat, and his body was uncomfortably hot. He pursed his lips, looked at the coffee cup in his hand, and then looked at Qin Shun with an indifferent expression. "What's in it?" Qin Shun was still sitting and smiled. "Something that can make you excited and find your original self." As he spoke, he got up and patted his clothes. "Something that can make you like women." Lan Yu's expression was extremely ugly. He glared at Lan Yu. "Even so, I won't go looking for women." Qin Shun slowly approached him and put his hands on the back of the sofa on both sides of Lan Yu. His eyes were indifferent. "Is that so? I want to see how Mr. Lan Yu will endure it." As he spoke, he moved closer to Lan Yu, so close that he could feel the other party's breath. Lan Yu's Adam's apple moved slightly. He suddenly pulled Qin Chen's body down and kissed Qin Chen's lips fiercely. At that moment, they both froze. "Qin Shun, fuck, he actually dared to kiss me." "Lan Yu." Qin Chen's lips are very soft, softer than a woman's. After a brief moment of silence, Lan Yu seemed to have gone crazy as he fiercely wrapped his lips around Qin Chen's. His kiss was full of desire. It almost ignited all his desire regardless of anything. Qin Shin came back to his senses and reached out to push Lan Yu. "Let me go." Chapter 2561. But Qin Shin didn't want to look at that scene. Lan Yu licked his lower lip and moved closer to Qin Chen's cold face. "Didn't you drug me to have sex with me?" As he spoke, he clenched his fists. Of course, it was nothing. Then Lan Yu froze for a moment, and then he thought that Qin Shun was a man. How could it not be an airport? But now, whether it was a man or a woman, he wanted it, especially now that he was drugged by Qin Shun. But he also knew that if Qin Shun didn't want to, he couldn't force him. Even if the person who drugged him was Qin Shun, even if he played such a prank, he still couldn't be angry with him. He actually spoiled a man like this. Lan Yu touched his forehead and smiled helplessly. "Dr. Qin, if you don't have feelings for me, then don't tease me like this." As he spoke, he reached out and carried Qin Shun to the side. Lan Yu was 182 centimeters tall, and although Qin Shun was thin and tall, he was 10 centimeters shorter than Lan Yu, so when Lan Yu carried him, it didn't look out of place. Qin Shin's body sank into the leather sofa. Just like how Qin Shun treated him before, Lan Yu pressed his hands on both sides of the sofa and looked at him with burning eyes. "You clearly know why I came today, and you clearly know that I have a desire for you, but you still sent yourself to me. What do you mean?" "Well, do you think it's fun to play with me?" Qin Shun wanted to move, but Lan Yu pressed his shoulder with one hand. Hot sweat dripped from Lan Yu's forehead, and he narrowed his eyes. "Now, you'd better not move, or I can't guarantee that you won't be raped by me." As he spoke, he bent down and whispered in Qin Shen's ear. "Even if that's the case, you asked for it." Qin Shen raised his head and looked into Lan Yu's eyes silently. In Lan Yu's eyes, other than desire and eagerness, there was also a deeper meaning. Qin Shen regretted it a little. Perhaps it was as Lan Yu had said. He shouldn't have provoked a man who couldn't satisfy his desires. What's more, this man had always been interested in her. Qin Shen asked in a low voice, "What do you want?" Lan Yu chuckled and reached out to touch his handsome face. "You're really stupid." As he spoke, he pressed down on Qin Shen's shoulder very tightly. Qin Shen subconsciously wanted to struggle, but only now did he realize how strong a vegetable was. Lan Yu pressed him down, his eyes burning. "Are you going to do it, or should I do it myself?" Qin Shen's breathing became a little chaotic. For the first time in many years, he felt flustered because of a man's shamelessness. But he couldn't blame others, because he was the one who had caused his shamelessness. He closed his eyes and sighed softly. Do it yourself. Lan Yu's Adam's apple moved. Then, in front of Qin Shun, he did something shameless to himself. Every breath, every heartbeat, every beat, Qin Shun could feel it with his eyes closed. Even though Lan Yu came by himself, the office was still filled with the same colors. Just as Lan Yu was intoxicated, the door to Qin Shin's office opened. The person who came in was none other than Zhou Chenghuang. He just wanted to talk to Qin Shun, but he didn't expect Lan Yu to be inside. What's more, he didn't expect to see such a scene. Zhou Chenghuang was stunned. Chapter 2562. Qin Shin turned around and said, "Wait a minute." Then he pushed Lan Yu away and said angrily, "Go to the bathroom and settle it yourself." Lan Yu was about to be on cloud 9 when he was interrupted. He even wanted to kill Zhou Chenghuang. But when he thought about it, Zhou Chenghuang was even more miserable than him. He disliked a man, and he could see him occasionally and hug his sweetheart occasionally. Even if he was called a pervert, he would accept it. But Zhou Chenghuang was different. He felt sorry for Zhou Chenghuang's situation. The drug in Lan Yu's body was not strong. Qin Shin was a doctor, so he would not use strong drugs. To Lan Yu, Qin Shun was the best medicine. At this time, after leaving Qin Shun, his mind was much clearer. Plus, with Zhou Chenghuang around, he could not do anything. He rubbed his nose and went to the bathroom to settle it. Zhou Chenghuang looked at Qin Shun and put his hand in his pocket. "Can we talk?" Qin Shun adjusted his clothes and walked out slowly, looking elegant and noble. If it was not for the fact that Zhou Chenghuang already knew that he was a woman, he would have been intimidated. Qin Shin's aura was more powerful than many men. Qin Shun took the doctor's robe and closed the door for Lan Yu. He walked to Zhou Chenghuang and said softly, "Let's go." Zhou Chenghuang was slightly stunned. "How did you know?" Qin Shin smiled faintly. In the heart of a doctor, the patient does not matter. Moreover, it is just a baby. He is not guilty. Zhou Chenghuang suddenly said, "His name is Zhou Shuemu." After that, he looked straight at Qin Shin. As for Qin Shun, he smiled, naturally understanding what he meant. With both hands in his pockets, he said as he walked, "If this was the child you had with Qin Mu, this name would be perfect. Too bad it's not. It's the child you had with Gu Mei." Zhou Chenghuang smiled bitterly. "How is she?" At this moment, they had already entered the elevator together. Qin Shin looked at him and said, "You don't know whether it's good or not?" Zhou Chenghuang could only continue to smile bitterly. Qin Shin tilted his head and looked at him. "Zhou Chenghuang, there is no turning back in life. You chose to have children, but Qin Mu chose to respect her words. But think about it. Even if she's willing to raise the child with you, do you think Umei will let you off so easily?" Zhou Chenghuang let out a long sigh. "I know. That was why he gave up on Qin Mu. If one of the three of them had to be happy, he wanted that person to be Qin Mu. He let her go, but he still loved her." Qin Shun said in a low voice, "Zhou Chenghuang, let go of yourself too." His words almost made Zhou Chenghuang cry. When he and Qin Mu separated, Qin Mu didn't say anything, but in Mu's heart, would he say the same thing and ask him to let go of himself? How could he let go of himself? He couldn't let go, and he couldn't let go. Anyway, he was already unhappy, so he might as well be unhappy. He would rather immerse himself in this kind of unhappiness. He wanted to retain the feeling he had with Qin Mu. After saying so much, Qin Shin knew that what he said was useless. In his heart, not only was Gumei sick, the child was sick, but Zhou Chenghuang was also sick. This whole family was sick. Qin Shun and Zhou Chenghuang came to the baby's ward. When Qin Shun saw the child, his eyes were a little cold. Aunt Zhang looked at him and said in a daze, "What a young doctor! And he's so good-looking." Was this good-looking doctor reliable? Qin Shin heard it and said expressionlessly, "I'm the younger brother of Zhou Chenghuang's ex-wife." Chapter 2563. Qin Shun was a surgeon, and he was the youngest and most promising surgeon in the entire B city. Others might not know, but Zhou Chenghuang knew very well that Qin Shun, who was in a vegetative state, was able to make Qin Shun alive and kicking. In just half a year, Qin Shun was still staring at the attending doctor. He was really impressed. At this time, the child was still asleep. Qin Mu sat down and reached out to touch the child's forehead. Then she asked Aunt Zhang, "How many times did Zhou Guomei feed him sleeping pills?" Aunt Zhang shook her head. "This is the first time I've seen it, but Madam and the child used to stay in a room together for a long time, and Madam didn't let me go in." Qin Mu cursed in a low voice and then looked at Zhou Chengwang. "It's better to have a full body checkup. Maybe it will have a little effect on the child's body, but I suggest you do it." He paused for a moment. "The child is still young, and this medicine may also damage his nerves. It's better to separate him from Guomei in the future." Zhou Chengwang nodded. "I will." It wasn't that he valued this child very much, but the key was that he gave birth to his own flesh and blood. It was a life. He really didn't dare to criticize Guomei's way of doing things. Qin Shun bent down and reached out to touch the child's little cold face. He murmured, "I heard that he almost died not long after he was born." Zhou Chengwang was sad, and Aunt Zhang saw gentleness on Qin Shun's face. A very good-looking male doctor with such gentleness in his eyes. She didn't know why, but Aunt Zhang suddenly felt that Dr. Qin's personal identity was not important. What was important was that he was a doctor, and a good doctor. Qin Shun quickly made a decision. "I will stay for a few more days until the child's condition is confirmed." For this, Zhou Chengwang was very grateful. He knew that with the relationship between Qin Shun and Qin Mu, it was already very rare for him to do this. Qin Shun looked at his expression and knew what he was thinking. He smiled lightly and said, "I am a doctor." Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything. He just smiled bitterly. Qin Shun said in a low voice, "Such a cute child. How could Guomei bear to part with him? If it's Qin Mu's child, she must love this child very much." That one sentence killed Zhou Chengwang's heart. Qin Shun's mood calmed down. He smiled and left first. Looking at Zhou Chengwang's face, Aunt Zhang knew Mr. Zhou's ex-brother-in-law had poked his sore spot, but she also thought in her heart, "Serves him right." Qin Shun put his hands in his pockets and slowly walked back to his office. He pushed the door open, but Lan Yu was not there. He chuckled silently. It was quite a long one. Then he walked to the bathroom. The bathroom door was open, and there was steam inside, and Lan Yu was still inside. Hearing the movement at the door, Lan Yu turned his head and looked at Qin Shun. He glanced at him and said, "If you don't want to bathe together, go out." Qin Shun leaned and smiled. "Lan Yu, your leg doesn't need to be checked. It's very good." In fact, his attending doctor would regularly tell him about Lan Yu's condition, and he knew that Lan Yu's follow-up was an excuse. That was why he played a prank today. He didn't expect that Lan Yu could bear it. As far as he knew, Lan Yu hadn't tasted the love jade for about a year. He thought that a little drug would make Lan Yu change his mind, but it didn't. Chapter 2564. Qin Shun sighed softly. There were so many beautiful women out there. Why would Lan Yu stare at him? Even his brother's little Cher had been Lan Yu's wife for so long. Lan Yu didn't miss her at all. Therefore, Lan Yu had a heavy taste. He was simply a pervert. Qin Shun smiled and took off his robe. Then, he put on his coat and left the hospital. He didn't want to be kissed by Lan Yu again when he came out. This man's current level of dissatisfaction couldn't be cured by half an hour in the bathroom. Qin Shun left. When Lan Yu walked out, he looked at the empty office and felt a little relieved. Although he kissed Qin Shun today and even did something outrageous, he knew very well that he was rejected. He stood quietly for a long time before he slowly walked out of Qin Shun's world. With every step he took, he knew that he should leave. Qin Shun had already left the country. He really shouldn't pester him anymore. At this time, in the VIP ward on the top floor, Zhou Chengwang looked at the child for a long time. The baby woke up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. He didn't cry when he woke up. He just opened his eyes and looked around. His big black and white eyes and his chubby little face were very cute. Zhou Chengwang looked at him, and there were tears in his eyes. He reached out and held the child's little finger. He smiled softly and whispered, "Auntie Zhang, give him some milk powder." Only then did Auntie Zhang remember that she didn't bring the milk powder. She wanted to buy it, But the nurse at the door pushed the door in with more than 10 kinds of milk powder and bottles in her hand. She said with a smile, "Dr. Chin asked me to send this. He didn't know what kind the baby would eat, so he bought them all." Zhou Chengwang was a little stunned. Annie Zhang was a little happy. She took it and said, "Dr. Chin is so careful." It was rare for a good-looking male doctor to be so careful. The young nurse was still smiling. "Dr. Chin is the best doctor in our hospital." In Zhou Chengwang's mind, he could not help but think of the luxuries in Qin Shen's office and the scene of him and Lanya messing around in the office. For a moment, he felt like cursing in his heart. An Zhang was still praising Dr. Chin for being such a meticulous man. Zhou Chengwang couldn't help but say, "He's not." "What?" An Zhang didn't hear it clearly, so she turned her head and asked. Zhou Chengwang shook his head. "Nothing. If Qin Shen didn't want others to know, then he wouldn't say it." In fact, he had never asked Qin Mu why Qin Shen had turned into such a man, and Qin Mu did not say anything about it. However, he had a feeling that there must be a reason and a story behind it. Annie Zhang had already fed the baby, and little Shui Mu was eating happily. Annie Zhang had been taking care of children for a long time and had developed feelings for them. Looking at the soft and tender little face, she couldn't bear to see it. Such a cute child. Please don't let anything happen to him. Otherwise, she would feel terrible. As Annie Zhang fed the baby, she thought of something and looked up at Zhou Chengwang. "Mr. Zhou, is Mrs. Zhou still at home?" Zhou Chengwang thought of Gu Mei, and his face became gloomy. Then he said softly, "Take care of the child first. I'll go back for a while." Annie Zhang nodded, and then advised him worriedly, "You're a married couple, so you should be patient." In her heart, she was thinking that if Mrs. Zhou was sick, she had to be treated. Chapter 2565. Zhou Chengwang didn't say much. He went downstairs and drove back to the apartment. When he opened the door, his heart was extremely depressed. To him, this house was the same as his marriage with Gu Mei. It was a cage. If it wasn't a child, he wouldn't be willing to walk in. The apartment was quiet. When he opened the bedroom door, Gu Mei was curled up at the head of the bed. When she heard the sound, she turned her head and looked over. She pursed her lips and said softly, "Is Shuemu okay?" Zhou Chengwang wasn't in a hurry to let her go. He just walked over slowly and sat by the bed. He looked at her deeply and said in a low voice, "Why did you feed the child sleeping pills?" Gu Mei's eyes widened. Her face was very thin, so her widened eyes made her face look even smaller. She looked very innocent. However, Zhou Chengwang didn't think that she was innocent. He still said in a low voice, "How many times have you fed him?" His fingers suddenly reached out and pinched Gu Mei's throat. "Do you know that feeding him too much medicine will harm the child and make him an immature person? Shuemu is your child, not Qin Mu's. He's not your enemy. How could you do this to your own son?" Gu Mei's eyes widened even more. She murmured, "Immature person? Don't you know?" Zhou Chengwang smiled coldly. "Yes, you don't know. You only think about your own happiness." He looked at Gu Mei and smiled bleakly. "You wanted to give birth to the child. I have my own selfish motives, but you insisted on everything. If you wanted to abort it at that time, I wouldn't have stopped you. Gu Mei, you know very well in your heart. But you want to give birth to the child. Have you thought about what this child means to you? Is it just a tool? Using him to marry me? Using him to bring me home?" He said softly, "Gu Mei, don't you love him? You can't even love your own child. How can I believe that you love me?" "Huh?" Gu Mei's face had a hint of anxiety. "Chengwang, I love you. You only love yourself." Zhou Chengwang reached out and slapped Gu Mei, causing her to fall onto the bed. His expression was somewhat repressed. "You don't deserve to be a mother." Gu Mei shook her head furiously. "No, Chengwang, it's not like that. I just felt that he was too noisy and wanted him to quiet down. Chengwang, I didn't do it on purpose. I won't do it again." Tears streamed down her face as she looked at him. "I couldn't sleep every night. Whenever I did, I would dream of the day I jumped off the building. That's why I didn't dare to sleep. I was so scared. I was scared that you wouldn't want me anymore. I was scared that you wouldn't come back because the baby was too noisy. I was even more scared that he would disturb us when you came back. So I fed him medicine. He was very obedient and didn't make any noise. This way, we'll be the same as before, right? She said anxiously, but Zhou Chengwang's expression became even more unsightly. He looked at Gumei and closed his eyes slightly. Gumei, let me take you to get treated. You're sick. Gumei's face was pale. She gulped and shrank back a little. No, I'm not sick. Chengwang, I'm not sick. I don't want to see a doctor. I don't want to see a doctor. They'll say that I have depression. They'll give me injections. They'll say that I'm abnormal. She hugged her head. I'm not sick. I'm not depressed. I'm different from Qin Mu. Chapter 2566. Although Zhou Chengwang probably knew about Gumei's illness, he closed his eyes slightly. His entire body was trembling. When he finally calmed down, he looked at her and said very softly, Gumei, go and get treated. He didn't like her, but he didn't want her to go that far. Gumei's eyes shrank as she looked at Zhou Chengwang like an injured animal. Then, she carefully moved over and reached out to hug him. Chengwang, I'm sorry. I didn't do it on purpose. I just couldn't control myself. Zhou Chengwang didn't push her away because he knew that if he pushed Gumei away at this time, he would be pushing her to the end of the road. His heart was dead silent, and he was almost resigned to his fate. That was it. Zhou Chengwang smiled bitterly and untied Gumei. Gumei's voice was very soft. Chengwang, where's the baby? Still in the hospital. He paused for a moment before speaking. Then, he looked at Gumei very seriously. Gumei, can you cure your illness now? Gumei's expression was a little stunned. She looked at Zhou Chengwang as if she didn't know him. After a long time, she said softly, Chengwang, you haven't talked to me like this for a long time. She hugged his waist and smiled at him. You haven't coaxed me for a long time. Zhou Chengwang's face was a little gloomy, and his voice was heavy. It will be better in the future. Gumei looked at him anxiously. Chengwang, is it true? We will be fine, right? Of course. Zhou Chengwang smiled slightly, but there was no smile in his eyes. He told himself that he did this for Shui Mu and for Qin Mu. He really didn't want Gumei, who was sick, to disturb Qin Mu anymore. At this moment, he thought of that villa again. He thought that he wouldn't go there easily. Zhao Zi was right. Too much attention would only harm Qin Mu. He pursed his lips, and his gaze became even calmer. But Gumei didn't know that. She revealed a smile that she hadn't shown for a long time. She buried her face in Zhou Chengwang's embrace. Chengwang, I will treat my illness well. Our family of 3 will be fine. He didn't say anything, but he felt a stabbing pain in his heart. A family of 3 was his deepest desire for Qin Mu, but now it had become Gumei. It was really ironic. He did not arrange for Gumei to go to Xinyuan Hospital. Instead, he went directly to Sea City General Hospital to arrange for a checkup. After half an hour of questioning, the doctor sent Gumei away and sat behind the desk with a serious expression. Mr. Zhou, Mrs. Zhou may be suffering from postpartum depression. Zhou Chengwang's face twitched, and he said in a low voice, Is it because of the birth? The doctor pondered for a moment before saying, Most of them are emotionally unstable because they don't receive love from their husbands after giving birth. Over time, they will become depressed. He paused for a moment before saying, It's best to isolate her from the child. Otherwise, it's easy to cause a tragedy. Mr. Zhou, I hope you don't mind because there are too many such examples in reality. Moreover, Mrs. Zhou's symptoms are quite serious. It would be best if she can be admitted to the hospital for treatment. If not, try to accompany her at home. There's an old saying that people who are sick need to be treated. Don't you think so? Zhou Chengwang forced a smile. I understand. I will ask for her opinion. The doctor nodded and watched him leave. Chapter 2567. After Zhou Chengwang left, the doctor let out a long sigh. Another unhappy man. Zhou Chengwang's matter had caused quite a stir at that time. It was hard not to know about it. Zhou Chengwang found Gumei. Gumei was sitting on the bench in front of the doctor's office, looking very obedient. He slowly sat down beside her, tilted his head to look at her, and said softly, Gumei, do you want to be treated in the hospital or at home? She shook her head. I don't want to be in the hospital, Chengwang. I want to be at home. He looked at her and said seriously, I'll let Aunt Zhang take care of the child for a while. Gu Mei still nodded obediently. Okay, I know. I'll be obedient. She looked as if she was afraid of being abandoned by him, because he found out that she was sick, and she was afraid that he would abandon her. Zhou Chengwang forced a smile. That's good. I'll go get the medicine. Gu Mei suddenly pulled his sleeve and hurriedly called his name, Chengwang. Zhou Chengwang turned around. When he saw Gu Mei's expression, his heart ached a little. He was quite familiar with that expression. It was like the expression of the 14-year-old Qin Mu looking at him helplessly. He thought that he didn't abandon Gu Mei, mainly because Gu Mei's illness was similar to that of Qin Mu at that time. Subconsciously, he turned Gu Mei into the incarnation of Qin Mu. It seemed that curing Gu Mei was like accompanying the young Qin Mu for a while. His dark eyes narrowed, and finally, he smiled bitterly. What's wrong? Gu Mei's voice was soft. Don't hit me in the future, okay? Zhou Chengwang smiled gently. Okay, I won't hit you. However, his heart was wet. Was his Mumu also as helpless as this? Zhou Chengwang didn't know that Gu Mei wasn't the only one who was sick at this time. Zhou Chengwang was also sick. In the end, when Gu Mei went to get the medicine with him, she became careful and afraid of annoying him. Whatever he said, she turned into the 14-year-old Qin Mu. Zhou Chengwang did not know what to say. He hated Gu Mei, but his heart was dead. At the same time, he missed the 14-year-old Qin Mu. There was no cure for him. The sick Gu Mei seemed to have become his medicine. In the car, Zhou Chengwang looked at Gu Mei and said, I'm going to the hospital to see Shui Mu later. I'll take you home first. Gu Mei nodded and whispered, Chengwang, I'm a little hungry. He paused for a moment and looked at the sky. It was indeed very late. Not to mention Gu Mei, even he was hungry, so he decided to eat before going to the hospital. Zhou Chengwang called Aunt Zhang. Aunt Zhang told him that everything was fine and that Xiao Shuimu was in good condition. Zhou Chengwang then felt relieved and drove to a vegetarian restaurant. At this time, it was already late winter. He was only wearing a thin coat, which made his figure look even thinner. Gu Mei followed by his side. First, she followed by his side, and then she carefully held his arm. Zhou Chengwang's body stiffened slightly as he looked down at the person beside him. Gu Mei smiled at him lightly, as if she was trying to please him. He didn't say anything and let her hold his arm. Gu Mei smiled a little sweetly. She pressed her face against his arm and smiled very softly. This vegetarian restaurant's business was very good. At this time, when they came in, the seats were almost full. The waiter quickly found seats for them to sit down. But just as they were about to sit down, Zhou Chengwang was a little stunned. Sitting at the table opposite them were none other than Qin Mu and Zhao Yan. Chapter 2568. Of course, Qin Mu saw Gu Mei as well. It was a different Gu Mei. Her face was filled with happiness. Gu Mei held on to Zhou Chengwang and looked very gentle. It was the Gu Mei that Qin Mu had never seen before. She looked down and smiled. It was indeed good to be divorced. After the divorce, Zhou Chengwang was living a good life. He had a beautiful wife by his side, and they looked very loving. It was not as painful as when she had divorced him. Qin Mu felt that she seemed to be thinking too much. Zhou Chengwang's dark eyes were bottomless. When he looked at Qin Mu, he was completely depressed. He had to desperately stop himself from walking over. He looked at her and Zhao Yan together. He was guessing whether she would choose Zhao Yan or Gu Zhe in the end. Yes, Gu Zhe was Gu Mei's brother. She probably wouldn't choose him either. Choosing Zhao Yan couldn't be more correct. Under such a gaze, his heart felt as if it had been pricked by a needle. It was very painful. So, he forgot to push Gu Mei away. He also didn't know that in Qin Mu's eyes, Gu Mei and he were a loving couple. He just looked at her greedily, wanting to compare whether she had lost weight. Qin Mu didn't know how to cook. Was she living alone? Did she often forget to eat? Did she have a stomachache when it was cold? Was there anyone to take care of her when she was in pain? Zhou Chengwang had too many worries, but in the end, he couldn't say anything. He could only look at her. Gu Mei leaned on him and smiled sweetly at Qin Mu. Qin Mu, what a coincidence. Qin Mu didn't give her an expression because it was a waste. She and Zhou Chengwang were divorced, and Gu Mei was promoted. But it didn't mean that Qin Mu had to give her a good expression. She also had a temper, okay? Qin Mu pursed her lips and didn't give Gumei a good look. Gumei didn't seem to feel it. She looked up at Zhou Chengwang with tears in her eyes. Chengwang, is Qin Mu still blaming me? Zhou Chengwang's dark eyes locked onto her face. After looking at her for a long time, he said softly, "Do you think she should blame you?" Gumei didn't say anything. She pursed her lips and sat down. After Zhou Chengwang sat down, he handed the menu to Gumei and drank his tea. His eyes fell on Qin Mu. Zhao Yan smiled mockingly at Zhou Chengwang. However, he didn't say anything and only smiled faintly. Zhou Chengwang was a little embarrassed. Him and Gumei appearing together was a form of harm to Qin Mu. However, there was really no need to turn around and leave. Since that was the case, he might as well take a few more glances at her. At the other table, Zhao Yan's voice was a little low. "Qin Mu, Zhou Chengwang doesn't seem to have given up." Qin Mu ate calmly. She looked at Zhao Yan and didn't say anything. After a while, she put down her chopsticks. "I'm going to the washroom. I don't have an appetite." Zhao Yan looked at her and said softly, "Do you want me to go with you?" Qin Mu hesitated for a moment and nodded. Okay, because she really didn't want to be blocked by Gumei or Zhou Chengwang. That was quite boring. Now, she just wanted to live well. Maybe one day, she would meet someone she liked. However, that person would definitely not be Zhou Chengwang. Zhao Yan stood up and accompanied her to the washroom. Chapter 2569. Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything. Gumei said carefully, "Qin Mu looks happy." This time, Zhou Chengwang said softly, "Don't talk about anyone else." Because every word she said made his heart feel like it was being pricked by needles. "Oh," Gumei replied. Then she asked him carefully, "Chengwang, are you angry?" Zhou Chengwang looked at her and sighed after a long time. "No." Gumei's voice was very low. "I know you're angry, because she's with someone else." "Gumei," he said in a low voice, "since you know I'll be angry, why do you keep mentioning it, huh?" Gumei looked a little embarrassed. She lowered her eyes and said after a long time, "I'm sorry, Chengwang. It's my fault." Zhou Chengwang looked at her and felt that it was really unbelievable. It had only been half a day, but Gumei seemed to have become a different person. But she didn't go crazy. It was good to be quiet in his world. At this time, the waiter served the 4 dishes that Gumei had ordered. Gumei picked up some food and gave it to him with a smile. "Chengwang, this is their signature dish. It's the best tonic in winter. Look at you. You've lost weight recently." Zhou Chengwang couldn't refuse. At this moment, Qin Mu and Zhao Yan came back and saw Gumei picking up food for Zhou Chengwang. Qin Mu's eyes flashed with pain. It would be a lie to say that she didn't care. After loving him for so long, how could she forget him so easily? Back at their seats, Zhao Yan said considerately, "Mu, we're almost done. Let's go." Qin Mu nodded. Zhao Yan immediately waved his hand to pay the bill. When he was waiting for the bill, Zhou Chengwang's eyes drifted over again. He could tell that they were going to leave. Was it because of Gumei that Mu didn't want to eat anymore? He didn't have much appetite at the moment, so he didn't eat anymore. Gumei's voice was very soft. "Chengwang, why aren't you eating? You've lost a lot of weight recently." "You eat. I'm not hungry," he said indifferently. He was so irritated that he wanted to smoke. Then he got up. "I'm going out for a smoke." Gumei was stunned. However, seeing that Qin Mu and Zhao Yan were still around, she didn't say anything. She knew that she couldn't go overboard right now. Otherwise, Chengwang might have to take back the kindness he had shown her. Gumei pursed her lips tightly and looked at his back view. Her hands mechanically picked up food to eat. When Qin Mu and Zhao Yan left, she stopped Qin Mu. "Qin Mu." At this moment, Zhao Yan's hand was on Qin Mu's shoulder as he quietly looked at Gumei. He had always been a very gentle person, but at this moment, he couldn't be gentle at all. "Gumei, you just have to be Mrs. Zhou. Don't be too overbearing. You won't be lucky every time." Zhao Yan just wanted to stand up for Qin Mu, but he didn't expect that his words would come true. Gumei was still smiling. She looked at Qin Mu. "I just want to say that Chengwang and I are very happy. We have a son, so, Qin Mu, you have to be good too. I wish you happiness as soon as possible." Zhao Yan wanted to say something, but Qin Mu stopped him. "Gumei, it's fine as long as you feel happy." Gume still wanted to say something, but in front of Qin Mu, all her words seemed a little pale. Chapter 2570. In the end, Gume pursed her lips and smiled coldly. Of course, I'm very happy now. Qin Mu didn't want to talk to her. Gume was no longer the Gume of the past. In the past, when Gume was Zhou Chengwang's secretary, she was quite capable and had the aura of a mature woman. At that time, the inexperienced Qin Mu couldn't be compared to her. But now, Gume was a madwoman who went crazy because of love. Qin Mu wouldn't bother with a madwoman. She wasn't the one who was suffering, but Zhou Chengwang. Qin Mu didn't say anything else and walked out with Zhao Yan. Gume was worried because Zhou Chengwang was smoking outside. If he bumped into Qin Mu, but she thought that with Zhao Yan around, nothing out of the ordinary would happen. At this moment, Gume didn't want to force Zhou Chengwang. As a woman, especially a woman who had been scheming for so long, she knew her limits. Just like how she knew how Zhou Chengwang would give in and how he would soften. Gume knew him better than Qin Mu knew Zhou Chengwang. Otherwise, how could Gume marry Zhou Chengwang? From the beginning to the end, she was the one who loved Chengwang the most. She looked at the vegetarian dishes on the table and ate slowly. Zhou Chengwang was still thinking about Qin Mu. It didn't matter. She had a lot of time. She still had a son. As long as Shui Mu was around, Zhou Chengwang wouldn't divorce her and Qin Mu wouldn't accept him. Gume smiled. She smiled so much that she almost cried. She had gambled everything, including her son, to get to where she was today. How could she give up? Because it was early winter, the car park outside was very cold. The moment Qin Mu walked out, Zhao Yan draped his jacket over her shoulders and said warmly, "Wait here for a while. I'll go get the car." When he arrived, there were no more parking spaces, so he parked a little far away. Zhao Yan didn't deny that he had left her here to give Zhou Chengwang a chance to say a few words. After all, they were husband and wife, so there was no need to make things so ugly. Moreover, in Zhao Yan's heart, he more or less sympathized with Zhou Chengwang. For a man to be in his current situation, it was really quite miserable. After Zhao Yan left, Qin Mu stood there. Feeling a little cold, she unconsciously tugged at Zhao Yan's coat. Suddenly, an arm grabbed her and dragged her over. Qin Mu let out a low cry, and then her lips were covered. A faint but familiar smell of tobacco. Her eyes widened in the darkness. It was Zhou Chengwang. Qin Mu's back was pressed against the cold wall, and his hand was on her back, afraid that she would catch a cold. Just like that, he pressed against her, trapping her. He didn't do anything but stare at her indifferently. Qin Mu also widened her eyes and looked into his eyes. In their entangled gazes, there was a pain that only they knew. Before they broke up, she might have hated him. But after they broke up, everything had faded. She even thought that she hadn't given him any warmth back then. It seemed that from the time she decided to divorce to the time they got back together, she had been accepting everything, not giving it to him. She really wasn't a good and understanding wife. But she didn't regret it. She was born this way and didn't want to change her personality for anyone. It was the same for someone like Zhou Chengwang who loved her deeply. Their eyes met. After a moment of silence, she finally said, "What is this?" Chapter 2571. Qin Mu sighed. "Zhou Chengwang, why do you have to do this?" His face was depressed, and he was still looking at her. Qin Mu said in a low voice, "Let go of me first. You'll run away," he said in a low voice. Qin Mu got angry at once. "Zhou Chengwang, isn't it normal for me to run away?" She seemed to feel that she had overreacted, so she eased up and said, "Don't forget that you're a married man now. We used to be husband and wife." He said this so miserably that Qin Mu couldn't even get angry. She could only stare at him, but she didn't expect that he would let go of her and take 2 steps back. "You're right. I'm not qualified anymore. Everyone in the world is qualified, but I'm the only one who doesn't." Qin Mu's throat seemed to be blocked, and she felt indescribably uncomfortable. In the past, she had thought that after she and Zhou Chengwang divorced, she would be happy if he was unhappy. If he was miserable, she would be very happy. She would even open a bottle of 1982 Lafite to celebrate. But when she saw him like this, she really couldn't feel happy. She even thought that it would be good if he and Gu Mei could live a good life together. At noon, she heard from Qin Shun that Gu Mei had gone crazy and fed sleeping pills to the child. Such a marriage was like walking on thin ice for Zhou Chengwang. But these were not things that she could save. She, Qin Mu, was just a victim, not a savior. She didn't mention his sore spot and just smiled. I don't have any plans for the time being. This was a statement, not an explanation. But for Zhou Chengwang, it was a comfort. Obviously, he also wanted her to live a good life, and he also hoped that she could find someone she loved, and that person also loved her. But when he heard that she didn't want to find someone for the time being, he was still pleased. This was one of the rare times that he was happy recently. Although it was small, he was really happy. Zhou Chengwang lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. Mumu, take good care of yourself. He couldn't tell her too much or too deeply. As he had said before, he was no longer qualified. Qin Mu grunted in acknowledgement. Just then, Zhao Yan drove the car over. He reached out and opened the door of the passenger seat. Mumu, get in. Qin Mu turned her head to look at Zhou Chengwang. After a long time, she said softly, "Take care." Tears welled up in Zhou Chengwang's eyes, and he choked. "You too." His gaze fell on the man's coat on her shoulders. Now that she was wearing someone else's coat, she didn't need to worry about him anymore, and he couldn't blame her anymore. This was probably the difference between inside and outside marriage. Zhou Chengwang silently watched the car drive away. In the darkness, there was a glimmer of light in the corner of his eyes. He thought that it was good enough to see her like this once. He put his hand on his chest, where there was still Qin Mu's scent. He stood there for a long time, so long that Gu Mei couldn't wait to come out. She asked softly, "Chengwang?" Zhou Chengwang looked at her sideways, pursed his lips, and smiled faintly. "Let's go. I'll send you back." Gu Mei didn't move, and her voice became softer. "Are you thinking about her?" Zhou Chengwang looked in the direction where Zhao Yan had just left. After looking for a while, he lowered his eyes and said, "Maybe." Gu Mei's face was full of disappointment, but she suppressed it and reached out to hold his arm. "Chengwang, I'm sorry." He didn't say anything because he couldn't say anything. There were some things that couldn't be solved by saying sorry, just like how he treated Qin Mu. Chapter 2572. Zhou Chengwang sent Gu Mei back to the apartment. Gu Mei behaved very normally. She considerately asked him to accompany the child in the hospital, saying that she was fine at home. Zhou Chengwang's gaze was deep. He looked at Gu Mei's face for a long time before he smiled and said, "Then I'm leaving." He even reached out and touched Gu Mei's cheek gently. Gu Mei's eyes were filled with joy. Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything else. He only told her not to leave. When he opened the door and walked out, his face was already gloomy. Gu Mei was pretending. The so-called postpartum depression was an act. Zhou Chengwang closed his eyes slightly and clenched his fists. How could she sacrifice her son for this fake marriage? Did she have any humanity? Did she know that he would soften and that he would soften his attitude because of her illness? Her flaw was that she knew him too well. Everything went according to his wishes. She acted a little too much, and it was unreal. It wasn't that he hadn't seen depressed people, just like the 14-year-old Qin Mu. At that time, there was no life in Qin Mu's eyes, but she had never hurt anyone. A little thought could make her very happy. These couldn't be faked. And Gu Mei, Zhou Chengwang chuckled softly. She really didn't have to be like this. She was really thinking too much. Zhou Chengwang pursed his thin lips, but he didn't say anything. He directly drove to the hospital. He was very tired, indescribably tired, but he still had to go on, and life had to go on. However, he couldn't find a trace of happiness. As he drove, he took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. He lowered his head and lit it. He took a long drag, and the smoke he exhaled was blown away by the night wind. The cigarette between his slender fingers rose and fell, and his eyes were deep and moist. In his mind and heart, there was nothing but Qin Mu. When he arrived at the hospital, he looked at Shui Mu's soft little face and saw Shui Mu smiling at him. His heart softened slightly. He found Qin Mu's shadow on Shui Mu's face. Zhou Chengwang didn't know if it was his illusion or his hope. In short, He felt that the more Shui Mu grew, the more he looked like his Moo. Shui Mu. Perhaps it was his and Qin Mu's child. At that moment, Zhou Chengwang felt that he was the one suffering for postpartum depression. He rubbed his forehead and smiled bitterly. He bent down to play with little Shui Mu. Aunt Zhang smiled and said, "Mr. Zhou, the baby knows you." He smiled when you came. He kept a straight face for a long time. Zhou Chengwang chuckled. "My son." Aunt Zhang also laughed and bent down to tease the little girl. Little Shui Mu. When Annie Zhang called out his name, Zhou Chengwang smiled faintly. There was an indescribable satisfaction in his heart. In this unhappy marriage, he finally found a trace of comfort, a trace of balance. He seemed to live outside of Gumei's life, and he had his own spirit. He, Mu, and their little Shui Mu lived together. Zhou Zong, this is an illness. Illness must be treated. Aunt Zhang, who didn't know the inside story, was still calling little Shui Mu and didn't notice Zhou Chengwang's strange behavior. That night, Zhou Chengwang stayed in the hospital, and Aunt Zhang also slept in the small room. Chapter 2573. Zhou Chengwang had gradually adapted to his former sister-in-law's behavior. Moreover, he felt guilty, so how could he dare to laugh at her? When Qin Shun came over to pick up the child, he said in a low voice, "I saw Mu last night." Qin Shun glanced at him and couldn't help laughing. "Did she slap you in the face?" Zhou Chengwang indicated that he could no longer communicate with her, so he shut up. Qin Shun held little Shui Mu in his arms for a while, and suddenly said slowly, "This child." Zhou Chengwang looked at her. Qin Shun frowned. "He looks a little like Qin Mu." Zhou Chengwang's mood calmed down and became happy. "I think so, too." Just as he was happy, Qin Shun poured a bucket of ice water on him. "He looks more like Gumei. She gave birth to him." These words were like a knife stabbing into Zhou Chengwang's heart. Zhou Zong sniffed, indicating that he wouldn't fall into Qin Shun's trap again. He didn't know that what Qin Shun said was true. At a glance, the child looked like Qin Mu's. Zhou Chengwang followed Qin Shun to the examination room, which was Qin Shun's special laboratory. Ordinary doctors couldn't enter. Qin Shun turned around with the child in his arms. "Wait outside. It'll take a long time, about an hour, but I'll try my best to be faster so that it won't affect the child." Zhou Chengwang nodded. He trusted Qin Shun unconditionally because he was Qin Mu's relative. Qin Mu's character was so good, and Qin Shun was also worthy of his trust. In the past, Zhou Chengwang was not like this. He was hostile to everyone. At that time, he only trusted Gumei because that woman had gone to jail for him. Until now, he still vaguely remembered that when he was drunk, he would sometimes lie on the sofa in Gumei's house and sleep for a night. Because at that time, he only believed that she would not harm him. At that time, he did not even believe in his own wife. At that time, he and Qin Mu had been married for a year. But now, he and Qin Mu had separated, but he had started to learn to trust. And the person he trusted the most had become the main character of The Wolf is Coming. Zhou Chengwang smiled bitterly, lit a cigarette, and waited quietly outside. Annie Zhang's heart was on the child. When the child went in, she shifted her attention to Zhou Chengwang. Seeing him smoking again, she couldn't help but advise him, "Mr. Zhou, it's better to smoke less. It's not good for you to smoke so much at such a young age. Besides, you don't look well these days." Zhou Chengwang held the cigarette between his slender fingers and smiled faintly. "It's nothing. It's just refreshing occasionally." Auntie Zhang didn't say much. She just muttered, "That's just occasionally. 2 or 3 packs of cigarettes a day." Zhou Chengwang smiled faintly and didn't say much. The waiting was long. He didn't know how many cigarettes he had smoked, or maybe more than 10, before the door of the examination room opened. Qin Shun looked tired. After taking off his mask, he looked a little serious. He called out, "Zhou Chengwang." Zhou Chengwang looked at him and had a bad feeling in his heart. Qin Shun looked at him and said very slowly, "Shui Mu's digestive system was completely destroyed. Did Gumei feed him anything other than sleeping pills?" Zhou Chengwang and Annie Zhang looked at each other. They didn't know. Chapter 2574. Aunt Zhang couldn't believe it. Which mother could be so vicious? This must be a scene from a Nima harem drama. Aunt Zhang looked at Zhou Chongwang apologetically. Sir, I really didn't know. If I knew, I would have told you. Zhou Chongwang closed his eyes. It's not your fault. He didn't say much. He just looked at Qin Shun. Can the child be saved? No matter what happened between him and Gunmei, since the child was born, he wanted him to live. He would give him all the love of a father. Maybe this was the only child he had in his life. Qin Shun looked at him and sighed. Zhou Chongwang, do you trust me? Zhou Chongwang's eyes were burning. I do. There was a glimmer of hope in his heart. He only felt that if Qin Shun was willing to save the child, there was still a way out. Qin Shun paused for a moment and then said in a businesslike tone, If you trust me, I will bring him to the laboratory in the United States and change his digestive system. Of course, the technology is not very mature. Maybe no one has ever used it before, but I am 80% sure it will work. Zhou Chongwang was slightly stunned. Qin Shun continued, You can have a checkup in the major hospitals first. If you feel desperate and give up, you can come to me. But don't take more than a week. When Qin Shun said this, she was completely emotionless because this was her profession. After a certain someone left, he told himself that he would never be emotional again. He was a doctor. Not all patients were people he cared about. If he could save the patient, it was the patient's fortune. If he couldn't, he tried his best. There was no need to feel guilty. So, she treated Zhou Chongwang's son the same way. Zhou Chongwang's eyes were sad, and he nodded. Aunt Zhang was at a loss. After a long time, she said, Where's the baby? Qin Shun looked down. He's asleep. I'll carry him out. When he carried little Shuemu out, Aunt Zhang burst into tears. This was the child she had raised with her own hands for a long time, and now the doctor said that he had this illness. Auntie Zhang's face was covered in tears as she pressed her face against Xiao Shuemu's. After a long time, she looked at Zhou Chongwang longingly. Mr. Zhou, you can't give up on this child. Of course. Zhou Chongwang hugged Shuemu from her arms and stuck close to him. There was a glimmer in the corner of his eyes. At this moment, he was a little afraid. This child was the reason why he and Qin Mu were separated. If the child was gone, wouldn't it be a joke? Then what did he have left? He couldn't even find a reason to continue living. Zhou Chongwang did not go home, nor did he return to the office. Everything was done over the phone. He brought little Shuemu to all the big hospitals in B City, but all the authoritative doctors shook their heads and apologized. They said that this illness could not be cured. The child was too young. Auntie Zhang was the same. After staying with him for 4 or 5 days, she had lost a lot of weight. On the 5th night, she held little Shuemu and looked up at Zhou Chongwang. She said softly, Mr. Zhou, go to Dr. Qin. He has a way. Zhou Chongwang was silent for a long time. I'll take Shuemu tomorrow. Auntie Zhang, can you go to the United States? He offered a sky-high nursing fee. Auntie Zhang cried, Mr. Zhou, I'm not doing this for money. This child is also a part of my heart. I can't let him go. I'll be even more worried if someone else takes care of him. Zhou Chongwang closed his eyes. Thank you. Now, his mood was as painful as his mother's death. At that time, he had Mu Mu, but now, Qin Mu had left him. Chapter 2575. That night, Zhou Chongwang went back to the apartment. After he returned, he didn't open the door immediately. Instead, he leaned against the door and smoked for a while. It wasn't until 1 in the morning that he stepped into the cold house. This place had never given him any warmth. It had only given him fatigue. He felt guilty toward Shuemu because he was the one who allowed the child to be born. After the birth, he couldn't take responsibility. Gunmei didn't want it, but he did. It was his flesh and blood. It was a life. When Zhou Chongwang walked into the apartment, Gunmei was still awake. She was lying on the sofa watching TV. With a gloomy gaze, he sized up his wife and name. He remembered that Gunmei used to dress up as a strong woman because she thought that he liked women like that. Now, she thought that he liked the appearance of a little wife, so she dressed up like Qin Mu. But she never knew that no matter what, he had never liked her. In the past, They were partners he trusted. He felt guilty for everything she had done to him, so he let her be. But now there was only disgust, only hatred. Zhou Chengwang had always known that he wasn't a good person, but Gume exceeded his expectations. In his heart, family was the bottom line that couldn't be touched. No matter what he did, he wouldn't hurt family. But Gume hurt his own son. How could he love such a woman? In his heart, the last trace of guilt was gone. All that was left was revenge. If this was the marriage that Gume wanted, then he would fulfill her wish. He would let her be happy in such a marriage. He knew too well how it felt to raise one's expectations and then smash it. At that time, would she be disheartened? If she stood on the rooftop again, he promised that he wouldn't help her. Instead, he would push her down. Gume, I'm already in hell. I don't mind dragging you down with me. Zhou Chengwang slowly closed the door and met her surprised eyes. A mocking smile slowly appeared at the corner of his mouth. You didn't sleep? Gume was wearing spaghetti-strap pajamas, the kind that was quite sexy. The silk material highlighted her petite figure, especially since there should be nothing under the pajamas. She rushed to his side in surprise and hugged his neck. Chengwang, you're back? He didn't push her away. He just smiled. Yes. Gume looked at his expression, and after a while, she carefully said, I've been taking my medicine these days. Zhou Chengwang reached out and gently rubbed her head, softly saying, very good. Gume blushed and asked in a low voice, where's Shui Mu? Why didn't you bring it back? He's fine. Zhou Chengwang smiled lightly. But he needs to be hospitalized for observation. Gume was a little uneasy. She loosened her grip and bit her lips. Chengwang, are you blaming me? I didn't mean it. I know. He kissed the corner of her lips comfortingly, then carried her to the sofa. Her body sank into the sofa, and she was wearing that kind of pajamas. Her posture was very seductive. Gume couldn't help but snort. Chengwang. She hadn't had a man for more than a year. Naturally, she would have you moo. Zhou Chengwang came over and kissed her lips lightly. You want me, huh? Chapter 2576. Zhou Chengwang's black eyes glowed coldly as he looked at Gu Mei's intoxicated expression. After a while, his lips curled into a cold smirk as he said gently, Gu Mei, I don't feel anything yet. Next time. Gu Mei suddenly opened her eyes and looked at him in surprise. Zhou Chengwang looked apologetic. I'm too tired. Although she was a little disappointed, she didn't dare to go too far. She pursed her lips and said softly, It's okay, Chengwang. We have plenty of time. Zhou Chengwang forced a smile. Yes. Then, he leaned forward and kissed the corner of her mouth. I'm going to take a shower first. Gu Mei still hadn't given up. She bit her lips and said, Chengwang, let's shower together, okay? He looked at her in surprise and then smiled faintly. Okay. Gu Mei lay down and reached out to unbutton his shirt one by one. Then, she moved downwards. He really didn't have any reaction. Gu Mei's hands paused for a while, and she didn't dare to tease him. Because he said he was tired. When they showered together, Zhou Chengwang didn't want to do it with her. After an hour, Gu Mei felt a little uncomfortable. When they were lying on the bed together, Gu Mei looked up at Zhou Chengwang's side profile. When can I see Shui Mu? Zhou Chengwang gently patted her head with his hand. Wait until the water and wood are ready. Gu Mei nodded and nestled in his arms contentedly. Zhou Chengwang reached out to dim the lights. She didn't notice how terrible his face was in the dark. Early in the morning, when Zhou Chengwang woke up, he smelled the aroma of breakfast. He closed his eyes and could hear the sounds coming from the kitchen. He knew that Gu Mei could cook, and she was good at it. There was a period of time when Gu Mei took care of his stomach. Zhou Chengwang lay down and closed his eyes. Then, he opened the bedside cabinet. It was the medicine that he had prescribed for Gu Mei. Opening the bottle cap, he poured it out and counted. There were 100 pills before, and there were still 100 pills now. A hint of mockery appeared on his face as he calmly poured the medicine back into the bottle. Then he took out a cigarette from the table beside him and lightly lit it. Shrouded in smoke, Zhou Chengwang's face appeared even more sinister and terrifying. Gu Mei was wearing an apron at the door of the bedroom. Her voice was very light. Chengwang, breakfast is ready. When Zhou Chengwang looked over, his eyes were clear and gentle. I'll get up in a bit. Gume didn't leave immediately, but quietly looked at Zhou Chengwang, hesitating for a moment before saying, Chengwang, can you smoke less? It's not good for your body. Zhou Chengwang smiled a little bitterly. It's already like this, it won't kill me. Gume still wanted to say something, but in the end, she couldn't say it. She had to go out first. As soon as she left, Zhou Chengwang's eyes darkened. Well, he changed into a set of clothes and walked into the kitchen. Gume had already prepared breakfast. Looking at the pure Chinese breakfast, Zhou Chengwang frowned and said, Why isn't it Western? Gume was stunned for a moment. Then she said, Zhou Chengwang, don't you only eat Chinese? His eyes seemed to be a little stunned. Then he smiled faintly and said, I forgot. Maybe my habits have changed over the years. Chapter 2577. But she didn't show her jealousy towards Qin Mu. Instead, she said politely, If you want to eat Western food, I can make it for you now. Zhou Chengwang stopped her. No, I have to go to the hospital later. Gume forced a smile. Okay, I'll start making Western food for you tomorrow. Zhou Chengwang didn't say anything. He just took the car keys after eating. Gume chased after him. Chengwang. He turned around and looked at her with a smile. I want to go to the hospital to see Shuamu. Gume bit her lips. Zhou Chengwang's eyes fell on her face. After a while, he said softly, Gume, you're sick now. Don't go. I'll let you see Shuamu when you're better. Okay? Gume was stunned. Yes, she was sick now. She forced a smile. Okay. Zhou Chengwang looked at her unfathomably. After a long time, he turned around and left. Gume watched him enter the elevator. The elevator closed again, and the red number was getting further and further away. He was back, and he was so gentle to her. But for some reason, her heart was still empty, as if something was missing. Downstairs, Zhou Chengwang got into the car and drove to the hospital. He was gone for half a month. During this half a month, Gume couldn't contact him. She didn't know where he was. She didn't even know if he would come back or not. She wasn't sick, but she was tortured to the point of being sick. Zhou Chengwang's car arrived at the hospital. Aunt Zhang had already fed Shuamu. Seeing him coming, she said worriedly, Shuamu seems to have lost weight these days. How could Zhou Chengwang not feel it? Just as Qinshin said, there was something wrong with the child's digestive system. It was obvious these days. The baby didn't like to eat and often cried. He held the baby in his arms and kissed the baby's face. Then he walked out of the ward with Aunt Zhang following him. When Zhou Chengwang got into the car, he called Qinshin. I'm going to Xingyuan Hospital now. After hanging up the phone, he turned to look at little Shuamu in Aunt Zhang's arms. His gaze was very gentle. In this world, Zhou Chengwang didn't have any relatives. Apart from Qin Mu, Shuamu was the only person he cared about. She was also his flesh and blood. No matter the cost, he would save him. Zhou Chengwang stretched out his hand and gently scratched little Shuamu's face, then reluctantly withdrew his hand. Seeing that, Aunt Zhang almost burst into tears. She murmured, Dr. Qin will definitely cure our baby. These words seemed to be said to herself, but it was more like she was saying them to Zhou Chengwang. In the past, Aunt Zhang thought that Zhou Chengwang was quite pretentious and that he had a mistress outside. But now, Aunt Zhang felt that he was quite miserable and pitiful. He was clearly a good person, but Gume made him into this. She heard that his ex-wife couldn't have children. He finally had a child, but his own mother made him into this. Aunt Zhang was quite angry. But no matter how angry she was, she couldn't stop Gume from courting death. Zhou Chengwang listened to what she said and smiled lightly. Then he withdrew his finger and said, Yes, it will be fine. He had already let Qinmu down. He couldn't let the child down. Zhou Chengwang brought little Shuamu to Xingyuan Hospital. Qinshin met him in his office. Chapter 2578. Just like Lan Yu, Zhou Chengwang also saw Qinshin's super luxurious office. However, he was not in the mood to appreciate it. He directly said to Qinshin, Please. Qinshin smiled faintly, as if he already knew that Zhou Chengwang would come. He handed a document to Zhou Chengwang. I need your signature on this. After reading it, Zhou Chengwang almost wanted to curse, because it was a small animal experiment agreement. And the carrier was a monkey? His son, Zhou Chengwang, was a monkey? A monkey named Zhou Shuimu? Was Qin Shun hired by a monkey to make fun of him? Zhou Chengwang stared at him. Qin Shun shrugged and held a classic cup of coffee in his hand, his tone very relaxed. Because this project has not been approved yet. The higher-ups said that it is a different kind of animal. I am taking a risk to do this. As he said this, he smiled faintly. Actually, there's no difference between humans and animals, right? As long as the results are good, it's fine. Zhou Chengwang still stared at him. He knew that Qin Shun did not have good intentions. Qin Shun smiled again. Zhou Chengwang, do you know how many heads of countries have asked me to do this kind of animal experiment? He took a sip of coffee. I am usually not free. Zhou Chengwang understood what he meant. He looked at the thick stack of papers and felt a little conflicted. How could he not know what it meant when he signed this? It meant that after Shui Mu went to the laboratory, he would be handled by Qin Shun. Whether he was alive or dead, Shui Mu was a monkey. If he did not come back, he, Zhou Chengwang, would only be offering a monkey for the experiment. In his heart, he had the same thought as Lan Yu. This quack. Qin Shun was still smiling. If Zhou Chengwang agrees, sign it. I will leave with him tomorrow. In addition, there is an attached confidentiality agreement. Zhou Chengwang closed his eyes. At this time, Aunt Zhang whispered, Sir, sign it. Zhou Chengwang slowly opened his eyes and looked at the information. Finally, he slowly signed it. Qin Shun put away the documents, then pinched little Shumu's little face, smiled slightly. Okay, take our little monkey to check. As soon as she said that, Zhou Chengwang and Aunt Zhang's faces darkened. Qin Shun looked at them with the child in his arms and chuckled. Why don't you have any sense of humor? Zhou Chengwang looked a little bitter. Qin Shun, can you cure him? Qin Shun was still playing with the child. He smiled faintly and said, It should be possible. Isn't this the bastard child of you and Gume? He should be cursed for thousands of years. This time, Zhou Chengwang's face darkened, and Aunt Zhang clapped her hands in joy. Although it was a little unfair to little Shuimu, Mr. Zhou deserved it. However, the little fellow in Qin Shun's arms burst into tears. His cries were earth-shattering. Qin Shun was stunned for a moment, then chuckled. Oh, our little Shimu seems unhappy. Baby, be good. We are not little bastards. We are little monkeys. Zhou Chengwang's face darkened again. However, he didn't dare to provoke Qin Shun now. His son's life was in the hands of the animal researcher. Qin Shun held the child and went for another checkup. When he came out, his expression was a little serious. It's more serious than I thought. Zhou Chengwang, prepare a private plane immediately. Zhou Chengwang pursed his lips and nodded. Qin Shun looked at him quietly. Immediately. Arrive in New York in 15 hours. I will operate on the child within 24 hours. Chapter 2579. Zhou Chengwang immediately followed him. Then, he took out his phone and dialed Zhao Zi's number. Help me prepare a private plane to New York. I want it now, no matter the cost. It will take off in an hour and a half. Zhao Zi was stunned. Chengwang. Zi, listen to me. Zhou Chengwang's voice contained a trace of pain. Zhao Zi did not say anything else. After hanging up the phone, he used the speed of a horse to settle this matter. Of course, the price would not be cheap. One had to know that flying across international borders was not something that one could fly at will. If the relevant documents were not handled properly, it was possible that they would be shot down. He used all his resources to get Zhou Chengwang and the others to take off in an hour and a half. Zhao Zi rushed over to meet Zhou Chengwang. When he saw the child in Zhou Chengwang's arms, he was stunned. It had only been a few days. How did the child lose so much weight? Zhou Chengwang's voice was calm. Zi, find Lin Shui for me and arrange for her to go to New York. Also, spread the news that I'm meeting her there. Zhao Zi was stunned again. He wanted to ask, but he understood something after thinking about it carefully. He nodded. I know what I'm doing. I won't say a word to Gume. Zhou Chengwang pursed his lips and smiled faintly. She'll never see Shuemu again. Zhou Chongwang was a little dazed when he said that. When he said it out loud, he realized how much he hated Gu Mei. He hated her so much that he didn't want her to see his own flesh and blood again. Zhao Zi was stunned too. After a while, he said in a low voice, "Chongwang, I understand." He got off the plane and left the takeoff area. He watched the plane glide from afar and fly into the sky. Although he didn't ask, he knew that Shuemu was seriously ill. Otherwise, Chongwang wouldn't have sent him away, and he wouldn't hate Gu Mei so much. Zhao Zi had seen his guilt towards Gu Mei. It had even caused Chongwang to lose Qin Mu. But now, he hated Gu Mei so much. It must be because Gu Mei had gone overboard. Zhao Zi's intuition told him that it had something to do with the child. Zhao Zi kept watching until the plane disappeared from his sight. After a long time, he pursed his lips and left the airport. He saw Lin Shui and handed her a check. 20 million yuan was a huge temptation for Lin Shui at the moment. Remember, what Zhou Zong needs is an obedient woman, not one who gossips. Zhao Zi's voice was a little cold, especially to Mrs. Zhou. Lin Shui, you know what to say, right? Lin Shui looked at the 20 million yuan and smiled gently. Don't worry, President Zhao. I'll definitely cooperate with you. Zhao Zi's expression was calm. Without saying anything, he straightened his body and left. As for Lin Shui, she picked up the check and kissed it. A smug look appeared in her eyes. Regardless of the reason, Zhou Chongwang thought of her again. She had a new chance. As long as she was obedient, she could be Zhou Chongwang's woman. As for Gu Mei, a strange look appeared in Lin Shui's eyes. In the past, when she was with Zhou Chongwang, Gu Mei's character was quite annoying. Sometimes, after she and Zhou Zong had sex, Gu Mei would appear with a laptop and a stiff suit. She would say to her, "Miss Lin, you could get a 1,000,000 yuan check later. Also, don't forget to take your contraceptive pills." Chapter 2580. At that time, Lin Shui wanted nothing more than to slap Gu Mei to death. Even a celebrity should have her words. Okay? Lin Shui was a B-list celebrity after all. Who did Gu Mei think she was? She dared to point fingers at her. Actually, she already knew that Gu Mei was Zhou Zong's woman, but Zhou Zong didn't seem to touch her much. Lin Shui saw her stiff expression and felt that she was just dissatisfied. Why was she pretending to be so serious? She looked like she wanted nothing more than to replace her and climb into Zhou Zong's bed. Lin Shui looked down on hypocritical women like Gu Mei. In the past, in order to show her face in front of President Zhou, she had no choice but to suck up to Gu Mei. However, she knew that Gu Mei was the one who called her when she was caught by Qin Mu in the office. So Lin Shui hated Gu Mei to the core. Now that Gu Mei had become Mrs. Zhou and Zhou Zong had asked her to anger Gu Mei, how could Lin Shui not work harder? Otherwise, she wouldn't be worthy of the 20 million. Lin Shui smiled gently. She had already imagined many scenes of Gu Mei vomiting blood. The more she thought about it, the more she couldn't help laughing. Everyone was looking at her. Lin Shui snorted. "What are you all looking at?" With that, she picked up the check and kissed it. Then, she swayed her slim waist and left. More than 10 hours later, in a secret laboratory in New York, Qin Shen's assistant had already prepared the laboratory. As soon as they got out of the car, Qin Shen carried the little boy and walked in quickly. His assistant was a handsome British man in his 30s. He went forward and stroked the little boy's loose hair. He smiled and said, "What a cute little animal." Zhou Chongwang's face darkened. Qin Shen carried Shuemu into the laboratory and handed the child to his assistant, Eisen. Put him in a sterile incubator. Eisen nodded. Qin Shen turned his head and looked at Zhou Chongwang. Shuemu needs to be observed for 6 hours. If there are no problems during these 6 hours, I will perform the surgery. Zhou Chongwang's lips moved. Qin Shen smiled and gave him a hug. He pressed his face against Zhou Chongwang's neck and said softly, "Don't worry, I will do my best." For some reason, Zhou Chongwang's eyes were filled with tears. Was it because of Qin Shen's care for little Shuemu, or was it because he felt that the child could be saved? While he was still thinking about what to say, Qin Shen had already let go of him and quickly walked away. As he walked, he took off his coat and said, "My secretary will arrange a place for you to stay. You will need at least 36 hours." Zhou Chengwang was stunned. 36 hours? What about Qinshen? Qinshen paused for a moment and turned around. "This is a common occurrence for me." He smiled lightly at Zhou Chengwang. Zhou Chengwang looked at him and then moved his eyes to the door of the laboratory. His son was inside. His eyes were slightly wet, and then he bent down and bowed to Qinshen. Since Qinshen had suffered it, it could be said that he had suffered it on behalf of Qin Mu. He left very quickly and came back about half an hour later. His whole body had been sterilized. Through a layer of glass, Zhou Chengwang could see Qinshen walking toward the laboratory. After another half an hour, Qinshen went to an instrument and stood there, observing under the microscope. The numbers on the meter beside him kept jumping. Bit by bit, it affected Zhou Chengwang's heart. Suddenly, Zhou Chengwang felt a little proud. Such a professional was Mumu's relative. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.